What's up, everybody? Chris Flick here. Chris Flick Podcast, episode number 169. You know, I just spent about 15 minutes watching a documentary called Stutz. And Stutz was recommended to me from an avid reader of the Weekly Word, which is my weekly newsletter that comes to your inbox every Sunday at 7:30 a.m. And what they said is, hey, I think you'd like this guy's insight, man. It's really, really thoughtful. His approach to healing is quite impressive. So I check it out and I like it. Now, Stutz is a man that's working with the actor slash comedian slash director Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill decided this man has changed my life so much that I want to highlight him and his teachings to the world. I'm going to make a movie about this man. And if we can introduce his concepts to more people, maybe more people could heal from whatever trauma they may be facing, from whatever kind of, mental health issues that they're experiencing. So as this gets going here, they start talking about things, and he points out this little triangle, this little pyramid that he has. All right, and when we look at the pyramid, there's 3 levels to this pyramid. At the top is your relationship with yourself. Depending on how long and how big the issues are, that top part of the pyramid, that's kind of like the icing on the cake. That's going to take some time to overcome, and it's going to take some hard work, right? But in time you can get there, right? At that middle level is your relationship with other people. Have you ever been in a situation where you're not doing good and you just start destroying relationships for some reason? You start treating people close to you badly. You stop talking to your best friends for no real reason. You kind of isolate yourself from the world, right? If you're in that zone there, that is the next step here. That's the middle section, healing relationships with other people. All right, and then at the base of that pyramid now, all right, this is our starting point. This is something that anybody could do. Anybody could leave Stutz's office and start working about their bodies, right, in their health, their relationship with their own bodies. And what he would recommend is what some of the ancient thinkers of the past, like Socrates and Aristotle, a healthy mind can't exist in an unhealthy body. So he would always want to kind of encourage physical activity, whatever it may be. If you're in a terrible mood right now and you went for a 15-minute walk around the block, you're going to feel better after that walk than when you started that walk. I've worked with people so many times, it's probably in the hundreds now, where they came into the gym and you could just look at their face and you're like, oh boy, they're in a terrible mood. This is going to be a long session. But by the end of it, guess what? They snap out of it. They're smiling. They're having fun, right? It takes time. It takes a little bit of time in the weight room. It takes a little bit of time moving your body. But if you're willing to take that first step and get moving, you're going to feel better for it. And then if you feel better for it in that moment, you might feel better for the entire day. And if you win that day, right, then that means that you could win the next day. All you have to do is replicate what you did the previous day, and you could win day number 2, and then you could win day 3, and then day 4. And next thing you know, you've had a good week, and you're feeling good about yourself for a week. And then you replicate what you did that week for another week, and then those weeks become months, months become years, years become decades, and you could get yourself out of whatever funk that you're in. Now, how do we get moving in the right direction? This is what's got me thinking. What are those some real basic steps? I don't want to do this, paralysis by analysis thing where you have to follow this exercise program for this many sets and reps, and this is the diet that you must follow. If you don't follow that diet, then try this one, right? Too many options is going to slow people down from action, all right? That's pretty much what it comes down to. If we're spending time thinking, we're not acting. And we need to act if we want to feel better. So, how do we do this with the least amount of thinking going on? All right, that's what we're going to try to tackle here. The first thing I would do when we're looking at diet, we're going to look at sleep, then we're going to look at physical activity. Okay, the diet portion here. Time-restricted eating, intermittent fast, whatever you want to call it. This is what I recommend. Dr. Ruth Patterson was works with breast cancer patients, basically. And she turned me on to this years ago. Her and Rhonda Patrick were talking, another incredibly smart woman, and they were saying that with their cancer patients, they put them in an eating window of 10 to 12 hours, right? And the reoccurrence rate of cancer in that group was much less. It was greatly decreased than those that ate their normal non-eating window time frame. I hope that makes sense. Basically what it came down to is if you use an eating window, your rate of cancer occurrence decreased compared to those that did not use an eating window. That was enough for me. All right? I mean, it was just disease. It was keeping disease at bay, and I've heard enough people talk about it. That was the one that kind of tipped me and took me over. I'm not chances of me having breast cancer are kind of low, but I just know that if it could keep a disease at bay, it might be worth looking into. So I look into it more and more, and I realize this is something I can implement to my schedule. What does that mean? I work, and then I just don't eat after work. I get up early, I eat throughout the day, and after work, I try not to eat. Now, sometimes as a family, we will eat, and I don't beat myself up over it. All I know is if I find myself looking a little fatter than usual, a little chubbier than usual, it's probably because I've been eating too late into the evenings, and I kind of get back on track with skipping that last meal of the day, and I'm good to go. If the family's eating, I'll eat. Marissa's got some food, Emmy's there ready to eat, I will gladly eat with them. It's just we usually eat a little bit earlier in the evening. Anyhow, time restricted eating. If you eat at if you eat in that 10-hour window, right, we have to keep in mind that you don't want to be digesting food when you go to sleep. So the next part of this is our sleep portion, right? We have our diet. All we're going to do is we're not going to even look at what you're eating. Those cancer patients were allowed to eat whatever they want. You're allowed to eat whatever you want. All right, just keep it in the window. 10 hours is what I recommend. 12 is where we're stretching it a bit. Okay, if you have body composition goals, 9 to 10 hours is probably ideal. That means if you want to get leaner, lose some weight, cut the window down. Now, with sleep, we don't want to be digesting food close to bedtime. We don't want to be digesting food while we're sleeping. If our body is digesting, it's not in a complete restful state. If the body's not in a complete restful state, we're not going to be, our sleep quality is going to diminish, all right? Our quality of sleep is not going to be as optimal as it could be. So what we have to do here now is if we're going to go to bed at 10 o'clock, say our goal is to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I'm going to get into bed at 10 o'clock. Maybe you eat your last meal at 7 p.m., all right? So you eat at 7 p.m., you hang out, you start getting yourself ready for bed, then you go to bed at 10 p.m. Now, in order for us to get 9 hours of sleep, that means I have to set my alarm for 7 a.m., right? Okay, that's 9 hours. When you go to bed, do you fall asleep right away? Probably not, right? But if you give yourself a little bit of a little leeway there, if you give yourself a few hours to unwind, whether it's drinking some tea, reading a book, just relaxing, right? Give yourself an hour or two to relax, so that you do fall asleep at an appropriate time, so that you then, when your alarm goes off at 7, you're still in that 7 to 9 hour sleep window. Another thing about the sleep situation there, I think getting to bed before midnight is important. I'm not sure why. This is kind of anecdotal. This is just things I've experienced in my life. If I sleep from midnight to 8 in the morning, that's 8 hours, right? I don't feel as good as I would if I went to bed at 10 p.m. and woke up at 6. I don't know why. There's something about getting to bed before midnight that just kind of works for me, and I think it would probably work for you too. So try to keep that in mind. So remember, with sleep, 7 to 9 hours. Start your sleep process. People call it sleep hygiene. I don't even care what you call it. Your protocol, your practices, your preparation. When you're going to get yourself ready for bed, start that 9 hours before your wake-up time. And hopefully you fall asleep within 30 to 90 minutes, so that allows you to get 7+ hours of sleep. I hope that makes sense. Don't eat right before bed. You got your eating window, right? So stop digesting food. Give yourself enough time to fall asleep. Try to get some sleep before midnight. And then wake up at the same time every day, no matter what's going on. That's what's going to help set the tone to get your body set on a certain routine and a certain pattern, is if you keep that wake-up time pretty consistent. Now, on to the exercise part. I'm thinking 20 workouts in 30 days, right? So if we start looking at that, what does that come out to? I don't know, 5 a week, right? So if you're going to say, I'm going to do something physically active 5 times a week, that's one way we could address this, right? And going along with that, 10,000 steps a day should be our actually, you know what? If 10,000 steps is too much for you right now, then just try to add 10% of what your current total is. So get a tracker. If you're only doing 5,000 steps, 10% bump would put you at 5,500, all right? That's how we should look at it. 10,000 steps would be ideal, but if you're low right now, if you don't think you can get there, 10% increase each week, all right? If you're at 5,000, add 10%. Keep trying to add 10% each week until you get to that 10,000 step sweet spot, right? That would be the first step I would do, right? If you're already in that routine and you still feel like crap and you're not feeling healthy, I'm adding resistance training into the mix. You know, I was just talking to a mom who's a physical therapist, and for her child, she said that heavy lifting, right, some heavy resistance training fires up her son's nervous system, central nervous system, that's going to allow the brain to function optimally, because he was just born with a little bit of a deficit here and there, right? He's a little bit delayed in some areas, and they recommended heavy resistance training to fire up the central nervous system. And I was like, I like that idea. Whoever told you that, they're my favorite. So if you're in a funk, man, and we got our steps in, if the steps aren't getting it, we got to add in some resistance training. 20 workouts in 30 days. Here's how I would do this thing. 10-minute minimum. Do something. Squats. Hold a plank. Do our 10-minute walk test, which is basically walk as far as you can in 10 minutes. All right? Mark that spot, and then each day try to beat it. Push yourself hard for 10 minutes. See what happens. Find a trainer, find a coach, find somebody. If you need some guidance, send me a message, okay? Go to chrisflick.net. Again, I'm dropping this website on you guys a bunch today. And just sign up for send me an email. Whatever. Find me on there. Leave a comment. I'll reach out to you. But resistance training is going to be key for our mental health. If you don't know how to do resistance training, find a friend, find a coach, find somebody that could help you get on the right path. Push, a pull, and a squat goes a long way. Doesn't take a lot of time. All right, you can do body weight squats, you can do push-ups, and for your pull, you know, you're gonna have to do a pulling motion of some sort of row or a hamstring exercise, right? Something on the back of the legs or the back of the upper body. I don't want to get too complex into this thing here, right? All I'm saying is you got to start moving. 10,000 steps is our first part. Get to that point. Once you get to 10,000 steps, then we're gonna start going with 20 workouts in 30 days. And if you're at that point right there, let's make sure all those other areas are locked in. Make sure I'm getting enough sleep and make sure that I'm eating in a time-restricted eating window. Now, last part. I got 2 bonus points here, man. A healthy mind can't exist in an unhealthy body. All right? And with that, we already talked about the physical activity. I would say, in order to keep us on the path so we could continue to start winning these days after day after day, I would recommend reading 10 pages of a nonfiction kind of motivational type book each day. Maybe each morning, maybe each night, whatever it is, right? Something that kind of keeps you on the path. If you need help there, I know I talked about it in a previous episode, man. Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art is the way to go. It talks about the resistance with a capital R. This resistance is whatever it is that's stopping you from reaching your goals. It's whatever it is that's stopping you from getting on the right path. Our next bonus is if you're in a depressive funk, if you're feeling unhealthy, if you're feeling like crap, cut the booze, man. Get rid of the alcohol. Alcohol does nothing good for you at all. Zero, zilch, nada, however you want to word it. Alcohol is a depressant. If you're in a funk, don't do a depressant. Don't do a stimulant either, right? I would probably try to work on healing your mind with other options, right? But alcohol is just going to compound, man. It's going to make everything worse. So as we sum this up here, if we want to get ourselves on the right path, now's a great time to start. Don't wait for the new year. Maybe today's the day. Get out and do a little bit of walking, right? We need to sleep better, 7 to 9 hours. We're going to use a time-restricted eating, 10 to 12 hours. We're going to do 10,000 steps a day, all right? Or 10% increase every time. 20 workouts in 30 days, all right? All that means is that you need to put 10 minutes in of something, all right? It's 10 minutes of something, and we're going to count that as a workout. Where are we? Read 10 pages of some motivational stuff, nonfiction, something to get you fired up. Stephen Pressfield's my boy for that, War of Art. Last one, cut the booze, man. Get rid of it. It's going to do nothing good for you other than just continually put you in a funk. All right. Now, this podcast is available. YouTube, Google, Stitcher, Spotify. It's out there, right? If you need help in any of these areas, we have a 30-day for $30 program. Something that I will send you a calendar and you will be checking the box on accomplishing things. And our goal is going to be to have more check marks than X marks each day. All right. And then if you could do that, like I already mentioned, try to win each and every day, then these things are going to continue to grow. You know, our big elaborate goal is to like be this healthy, awesome person. But for somebody in a depressive funk, for somebody that feels that paralysis by analysis, for somebody that doesn't know where to begin, those huge aspirations might be a bit overwhelming. So if we could break it down into these small little miniature goals, right? If we could win those over and over and over again, then 5 years down the line, 10 years down the road, we're going to be a better person for it. 30 days, $30. Accountability coach. Get some. Peace, everybody.